Kiki.
Bye.
Hello, super friends, and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday. My name is Annie M. Pasquinelli, and I am an author. In my lifetime of becoming an author, I have run into a lot of different people, and probably some people that are watching this video right now who have these great, big, giant, amazing, fantastic ideas for some type of creative project, whether that's a book or a book series or a song or a painting or a movie or a comic or whatever. The problem is they just haven't quite gotten themselves to start. But having an awesome idea is only part of the process. The next step is actually taking the leap and putting that creativity into action and producing something that you can share with other people. For plenty of great, totally reasonable reasons? For a number of perfectly logical reasons, this is arguably the most intimidating step of the creative process. You're looking down the barrel of some kind of awesome, giant, world-changing idea, and all of a sudden, when you sit down and get ready to put it down, you feel
Really small.
You might say to yourself, I can't do this, I'm not a writer. But what you're forgetting is one very important word. You are not a writer yet. The definition of a writer is literally a person who writes, just like a runner is somebody who runs, or a painter is somebody who paints. It's literally the act of doing that turns you from someone who wants to write into a writer. All you got to do is start putting some words down on the paper, and there you have it. Of course, that's easy enough to say, and having done it a number of times, I can say it only gets a little bit easier each time. And there's a ton of advice out there that you can look for, especially on the internet. Some of it good, some of it okay, and some of it really bad. So what I want to do for you guys this week is give you my top 3 tips for just getting started on your creative project. For many of the clients that I've consulted on projects with, these 3 nuggets are like the key elements in helping them get from point A to point B, for getting them on the road to authorship. So here we go. Here are my top 3 tips. Tip number 1, write a couple of nonsense sentences first. Now, this is probably the weirdest piece of advice that I've ever received or ever given, but it is one of the oddly most satisfying and most productive tip that I can give you. When you first decide to start working on your project and you pull up that blank document or you get out that piece of notebook paper and flip over to a new page, just staring it down is almost scary enough to just keep you from ever putting anything down on the paper. But if you just take a few seconds and write down some nonsense things, fill up the page for a few lines, then take the time to go ahead and get started after that, it's a whole lot easier. For whatever reason, looking at that blank document is really just, it puts this block in people's brains and they can't think of how to start. So just start completely off the map. Even if you write a few sentences about like what you had for breakfast this morning, or what your favorite movie is, or how to change a light bulb, anything. Just put something on the page so the first thing that you write on what you want to work on is not, that big, scary, important thing.
Okay, Mr. Essay, I say, prepare to be written! And done. Now let's see how it looks so far.
Tip number 2, start anywhere but the beginning. It seems to make a lot of sense in a lot of people's brains to start at the very beginning of the book and just write your whole way through. And that works for some people. But chances are your first draft, especially the first draft at the beginning, is not going to be what you end up with. That's because the beginning is arguably the most important part of your whole project. Whether it's the first note of the song or the first sentence of your book or the first stroke of your painting, actually, that might not work. Whatever it is, your target audience is going to decide within 5 seconds whether or not they continue listening or reading or watching whatever content you're creating. And that's a lot of pressure. So take that pressure off of yourself and start somewhere else. People tend to work better when they're really excited about what they're wanting to create. Find that little piece that excites you and start from there. Just write for a few pages. See what happens. For my dad on his book, basic automotive training, which is available on Amazon.com. Shameless plug. We just had him start with something really simple and easy, which I think, if I remember correctly, was how to check your oil. It's a simple, easy task that doesn't require too much thought, that he's explained 1,000 times to other people. As soon as he got it down, he realized he actually knew what he was doing. And writing about this was easy and helpful, and he could see the potential in it. And that was what inspired him to keep going after that first session. So don't worry about what comes before or what comes after. Just find that special spot and start going on it. Tip number 3, keep all the notes. All of them. Keep notes everywhere. Keep notes every time. Anytime you come up with some inspiration, make sure you write it down. Anytime you come up with an idea that you think connects with everything else, write it down. Anytime you have opportunity, make sure you write it down and put it all together. Then you put that thing somewhere safe. This is a really important tip for 2 reasons. The first is really easy to explain with this metaphor that I heard a couple of years back. The beginning stage, the first draft of the writing process, is like putting sand into a sandbox. You have to shovel a bunch of sand into the box so that you can start working on the castle. If you don't have any sand in there, what are you gonna make? You can't start making your sandcastle until you have sand in the box. So keeping notes on everything is your way of putting sand into the box so that you can use it later on to build your sandcastle. The other reason this is important is because, again, writing takes a lot of time to do. To make whatever project that you're working on will probably require hours and hours of time and dedication. Sometimes you might be really inspired to work, but not have any time to do it. Other times you might have the couple of hours you can dedicate to this project, but you're just not feeling the inspiration. If you keep all of your notes together, then you can write down what it is and keep track of what inspires you. And when you have time, you can go back and look at those notes and remember why you're so inspired to do this thing. And you can just go ahead and put it right in and get started being excited and writing and doing the things. And never delete anything. You don't know how painful it is to have some really good idea and say, oh, I'll remember that when I get sitting down, and then totally lose it. I don't know how many ideas I've lost that way. Just write it down. Even if you have to send a text message to yourself, keep record. And this isn't quite a tip, but it's just a little piece of advice. Remember that this is a fun project that you're working on, a creative endeavor. And it's probably going to take a long time, and you may not see the results of it for quite a while. But the difference between someone who wants to write and a writer is that a writer is someone who puts in that time and starts working on it, even when it's still really small. Free yourself from the burden of any kind of expectations and just get started and have fun. Because if it's not fun, then why are you doing it? If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more superheroic content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little bell thing that's down there as well. You can also find us on our website at www.fearless9.com. And if you want to become part of the Fearless 9 team, then go ahead and hop on over to patreon.com and support us over there. Hope you enjoyed this video, super friends, and we'll see you next week.